and welcome back to another edition of Completely Unoriginal right here at DakotaBroadcasting.com. I'm Adam St. Paul, joined by Kurt Campbell and Tony Zur.
Hello.
And we are here to talk about Star Wars.
No, wrong movie.
Oh, okay.
Wrong movie.
How's it going today, guys?
I can't hear Kurt at all.
You can't hear me?
I bet you can now.
How about now?
Oh, now I can.
Yay!
Okay.
He just wants to know how you're doing. I'm okay, so we'll ask how you're doing.
I'm a little perturbed as of this morning because I don't know if you guys know who Max Landis is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he dissed Star Wars.
Oh, the new one?
Yeah, he said he tried to poke a bunch of holes in Rey's character and pretty much kind of came off not with me, but came off with the general public as kind of being a sexist because he's basically saying that she was too good. She was too awesome, and he called her a Peggy Sue, one of those characters. I mean, I like to think of the Peggy Sue characters as being like Alice from Resident Evil, because after so many times of her showing up and just being the badass that she was, it loses its flavor. But I didn't think that Rey was like that at all. He was just saying that she could do no wrong. She didn't do anything wrong in the whole entire movie. And he's like, she got in the Millennium Falcon and was just able to pilot the Millennium Falcon. I'm like, dude, I was cringing the first minute that she was driving that thing. She was running it into things and dragging its ass all over the place. And I'm just like,
yeah.
So I was really perturbed by that today because he really didn't know what the hell he was talking
What
about.
I would say, the criticism I would say, and there's a couple of things that I want to get out, and we'll talk.
Now, before we
actually,
begin...
we should have started begin. This is going to be a spoiler-heavy
Is it?
discussion.
I didn't know if we were going to get spoiler-heavy or
Yes,
not.
we should get, because that's the only way we can adequately discuss what things in depth about the universe. So
Maybe at the beginning we should add, if we can go back, or if we think to be able to go back, just say this is a spoiler-heavy episode, maybe put it in the description, something, because if we're going to get into it, then I don't want anyone saying we spoiled Star Wars for
no,
them.
well, we're going to get into it. So this is your spoiler alert. And basically, I think we just all probably want to talk about what we thought about the movie. Max Landis opinions notwithstanding.
Those sound like an attention grab to me.
Well, Landis is probably jealous because his last couple of movies have bombed.
Yeah,
so with
well,
American Ultra and Victor Frankenstein. So.
Victor Frankenstein tanked hard.
Yes, exactly. So overall thoughts. We'll start with Tony, and then we will go to Kurt, and I will finish things up. And please, Tony, we have to keep the show around 20 minutes or so. So let's
Don't get too long.
Don't get too long. No.
Oh, no, no. All I'm going to say about it is this, and this is what I've been telling all of my friends, and this isn't even a big spoiler. All I can say is that on my movie shelf is my bookshelf. That's where I keep my Bibles and shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have the original trilogy on my shelf. I refuse to buy the prequels because they're shitty movies, and they do not go along with those other three movies that are awesome in my eyes.
Right.
When this movie comes out on DVD, I will be extremely happy to present it alongside of the original trilogy as a movie that did its job and was as good as the original. It's as good of a prequel or a sequel as it could have been, and it goes along with the same tone and flavor of the original movies in my eyes.
Okay.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Kurt?
For me, here's the long and short of it is the movie hit every one of the right buttons for me throughout the entire thing. The blending of the original characters with the new characters was pretty seamless. I liked the new characters a lot. It felt like a Star Wars movie, which, in spite of George Lucas being behind the movies that shall not be named, they didn't feel like that. They didn't have... There was... I don't remember where I saw this, but I agree with it. J.J. brought the fun back into Star Wars. It was so dreadfully missing from those first three films.
Right.
Or the second three films, or the first three, whatever. I'm going to blow my brains out if I have to get too deep into that garbage. But episodes 4, 5, and 6 are fun movies. They're exciting movies. And he really cranked up the action in this film. This is a very fast-paced movie. Empire is pretty slow in comparison. I'm not saying it's not as good a film. I'm just saying pacing-wise, Empire is slow compared to the action in Episode 7, in my humble opinion. So all I can say right now is JJ is my hero. He has saved the franchise, and more importantly, he has me actually excited about Episode 8 in a way I didn't think I would be.
In JJ, we trust. And actually, Kurt, you kind of lead into what I want to say. This is the first time probably since Lord of the Rings, the original Lord of the Rings trilogy in the early 2000s, where I am legitimately excited, legitimately can't wait until the next film.
Yep.
And that is not going to be until 2017, but I'm excited. I want to see it. It was outstanding. To just reiterate everything that you guys said, there were some things that I want to talk about, and we'll get into those. But it was great, lots of fun. It felt like a Star Wars film, as you said. Mm-hmm. And if I had to, and I mean this wholeheartedly, prequels notwithstanding, because we don't consider those very much, but if you are talking about Star Wars sequels now, mm-hmm. It goes Empire, The Force Awakens, Return of the Jedi for me. It is better.
Agree. I think Episode 7 is better than Jedi, I love Jedi.
It is a better film than Jedi. For one thing, everyone has something to do.
Yep.
Like Han and Leia's characters, they're in love and they know they're in love. They got kind of boring and they had nothing to do. They had to break down the shield generator, and Han got shot, or Leia got shot, kind of. Like, everyone had something to do. Everyone had their parts to play, and loved it. Can't recommend it enough. And let's start off here quick. Talk about some of the things specifically that you liked. And once again, don't be afraid to go into spoilers because we gave the warnings. So, Tony, what were some of the things that you specifically liked about the film?
Well, I liked that they gave the stormtroopers a little bit more flavor, and like you had when Kylo Ren's like having a temper tantrum and like slicing up a room or something, the two stormtroopers walk around the corner like, no, we're gonna go this way.
And actually, real quick to interrupt you, Tony, that's something Kurt and I actually went and saw the movie together,
yep.
And we agreed that the comedy was all organic to the movie, all in service of the plot. It was no ham-fisted jokes put in anywhere or anything like that. It was all like part of the film.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. And now I'm gonna get into a spoiler here.
Okay.
But I liked that Chewie was given a little bit more flavor as well. Mm-hmm. And when Han Solo got run through, mm-hmm. I did not cry because Han Solo got run through. I cried because of the emotion that Chewie was feeling. Mm-hmm. I teared up when Chewie just went on a rampage after that. It was I'm getting goosebumps talking about it right now because that was such a relationship, and that was shit, dude. That fucking Wookiee should win an Oscar for that. Like, seriously, I don't know. The emotion he portrayed when that happened, man, I bawled like a little baby. And then also, we were all so just like, where's Luke? And hashtag where's Luke? And all this stuff and everything. And the opening crawl comes up, and the first line of the opening crawl, Luke Skywalker has vanished.
Boom! There you go.
And see,
I'm just like, son of a bitch, we're gonna be looking for him the entire movie. And I was like waiting when they were in the forest, and they were all three of them fighting together. You had the lightsaber come out of the snow, and first you think maybe Kylo Ren's going to grab it, then it zooms past him, and by God, if I didn't think Luke Skywalker was going to grab that lightsaber, it was going to go to his hand, and he was going to slice off Ren's head. That would have been. I would have been so happy.
I liked what they did with Skywalker because they kept building up to it. They kept and it's a cock tease because now it's like, oh, I want to see, where's he been? What's going on? What happened?
That's all for episode 8.
And that's all for episode 8. You got to wait a year. If they would have done that, if what you said, because I've heard, naturally that's kind of what you think of. I would have said, oh. You ruined it. You had it. You had it on the 1 yard line, and you couldn't punch it in.
That is this movie's Empire moment, because Empire ends on that down note. Luke's injured. He still faces that final confrontation, and it leaves you hanging, waiting for the next movie in the series. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the Empire moment there. I think that ending shot gave me chills.
Oh yeah, man.
That
Oh.
ending shot just put chills up and down my spine. I'm like, why do I have to wait? Damn it! It was so good. One of the best shots in the entire film series, as far as I'm concerned.
Kurt, what did you think, just in general, some good things about the film? Your favorite things?
Some of my favorite things. Well, let me talk about one thing in particular. I knew I was going to be okay when I didn't hate BB-8. Because I was so ruined by all the stupid ham-fisted shoving of characters that George Lucas did into the other films that, oh no, a new cute droid. Please, God, don't let him be. I liked him. I thought he was great. So I knew I was in good hands when I didn't hate him. From a technical aspect, Adam, you and I talked about this. One of the other things I love just from an aesthetic point of view is the movie looks gorgeous. It is beautifully shot, designed within an inch of its life, and looks amazing. I cannot wait to see it at home on Blu-ray whenever it comes out, probably next Christmas would be my guess. But so I loved that. I loved the emotional weight that it was brought to the characters. Again, spoiler time, when we discover Kylo Ren is Leia and Han's son. And they, two of the greatest heroes in the Star Wars universe, have a son who has turned to the dark side, and it tore their family apart. And I get the feeling that that's the person who ruined the return to the Jedi Order that Luke was trying to get started in the first place. I'm sure he's the one that turned to the dark side and caused Luke to disappear.
That to me wasn't that big a shock.
No, that wasn't a shock, but I liked. What I'm saying is, I like the emotional weight that this has ruined these people's lives. They're broken people, despite the great victories they had by the end of Episode 6. And yet not everybody lives happily ever after all the time, and I think that was really important to bring to the story. So a lot of gravitas there. And
that was some things I like. First off, Grand Imperial Leader Snoke, or whatever his name is, he basically just tells you, that's your father,
yeah,
right?
They're not hinting at it.
No. It had nothing to do with hinting. They didn't try to do I am your, they didn't try to do an Empire moment.
Right.
They just kind of delve out the information as needed to keep the story going and whatnot. And I liked that. I appreciated it, and I thought it worked really well. Loved the movie. I liked. There are so many things that I liked a lot about it. Return to the biggest thing was the look.
Yeah,
they've actually filmed things in the desert. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
on Jakku.
Real sets, real creatures, real droids.
I mean, all of that stuff was great, and I can't recommend it enough. But there's some things I want to get out there and just discuss that I had a couple of negative things about it. So my first question is, and this kind of goes back to what Max Landis said with Tony bringing up how they jump into the Millennium Falcon and they just go. And they do that a couple of times. They jump into a TIE fighter and they take that and go, do no vehicles in this universe have keys? Or, think about it.
My guess is they do the equivalent of hot wiring it. That would be my guess.
Okay.
You don't see Poe and Finn really getting into it and going. But my guess is no. For the TIE fighters, they don't need keys. They're on their own ship. No, they don't. There's no way they would ever expect anyone other than the people for the First Order to be on the ship in the first place.
So like what you're saying, there is vehicle theft in this universe has got to be off the charts. Is what you're saying. That's fine.
The Millennium Falcon got stolen from Han.
Exactly.
So maybe
they should really consider getting
the club
keys
for your
or
ships.
something. Yes, exactly.
The Corellian Club.
Tony, any thoughts?
Well, okay. My thing was, I think that, but there's a flip side to this coin. But I think that Ren taking off his helmet with Rey was a little premature. I think they should have waited until the Han Solo death to do that. I think that would have added, because after that it kind of ruined the flavor a little bit. And then when he takes off his mask, with Solo, it's not as, and he drops it right there. It was like this big thud. And he just drops it right there, and I just think that it would have been cool to save that for then, but I think they might be trying to kind of do a Godfather on us, because I think that after watching all the Godfather movies, you go back and you look at certain scenes between certain people, and you're like, oh, this is a cooler scene now that I know what's going to happen. Now that I know, the relationship, between these two characters, how it unfolds. This is a really cool scene because I know what's going to happen now. And I think that when he takes his helmet off, there's going to be something going on between these two later on. And that's going to be that epic first moment that when people look back on these three movies, they're going to be like, that was that moment, man. And I don't. So it was kind of cool, kind of not. I also thought it was really cool that they didn't do a lot of backstory on the characters. They kind of said, screw that. We're going to give you a little tiny piece, and we're going to figure that shit out later. We're going to get right on into this. They didn't have a lot of bio stories or anything.
No, it's very easy on the exposition, and that's also a good thing because the prequels are nothing but exposition. Horrible.
My next issue I had is, this is okay, but I just don't want them to go back to it again because they went with a bigger Death Star. Like a lot of this film, a lot of the beats were very, very similar to A New Hope, which isn't bad. I get what they're trying to do, but I mean, we've already been through 2 films now where the goal is to destroy the Death Star. This time, the goal, it was more of a backdrop for what was going on, but their goal was to destroy an even bigger Death Star. Han even mentions, or they even just mentioned, this is the Death Star, this is the Star Destroyer, whatever the heck it was.
Star Killer 1.
Star Killer 1.
By the way, can I get nerdy for just a second and geek out over the reference there? Luke's original name in the script was Luke Starkiller.
Yes.
I love that. That kind of got my inner nerd go, ooh, squee! So
they destroyed the device or the weapon, and I just hope now they could go tell a different story. There's got to be more stories to tell in this universe other than simply trying to blow up a Death Star.
And honestly, they kind of did. I mean, honestly, that thing was kind of had a really kind of a shitty go out. Like it was really easy for them to.
Well, see, and that's my point. Like let's move away from this because each time there's always a way to blow it up. There's always a way to get around it. So okay, it takes tension for me out when I'm like, all right, they're going to do the exact same thing they did in A New Hope and Jedi and simply destroy the device. So let's move away from that for the next film. Like I said, didn't ruin it for me. Loved the movie. I just didn't like that part of it. And then another point I wanted to bring up is so there's the First Order, which is the remnants of the
Sith
of the Empire.
Sorry. Empire.
Then you have the Resistance, who are, quote, resisting the First Order, which is what Princess Leia is part of, or Admiral Leia, or General Leia, whatever she was.
General Leia.
Then you have a Republic. So shouldn't the Resistance just be like the army that's going against the fledgling Empire that's trying to regain power? That, to me, confused me.
I think the Resistance is basically the coalition of forces from the Republic. The First Order, again, it didn't end cleanly. That's another thing. Yeah, sure, they blew up the Death Star and wiped out the Emperor, but things did not go smoothly afterwards, obviously, because it's not one unified galactic government, obviously. The Empire still had plenty of resources and plenty of troops and plenty of power and plenty of money, wherever they get that from, to keep going. They're kind of like, I hate to compare them to that, they're kind of like the Taliban. They get knocked out of power in Afghanistan, but they're still fighting strong and still trying to take it back. They're kind of the Star Wars equivalent of that, I think. And I think the Resistance is just the coalition of forces from the Republic fighting against them.
Yeah, I think it's like a Total Recall kind of thing. Like you got the kind of the rebels, kind of going away and saying we're gonna do what we need to do to take this down, and kind of, going away from the government a little bit, but.
Yeah, so, and calling them rebels wouldn't be right because they're not rebelling against the powers that be. So they're no longer rebels.
That to me was confusing, and I wish they would have done a better job of explaining what exactly was the power dynamic in the universe at this point. Other than that, I guess I just wanted to briefly touch on the lightsaber fights at the end of the film because the swords looked like they had actual weight behind them. They were kind of just swinging them and and trying to club them. You know what I mean? Like it was not an acrobatic, organized, choreographed dance. It was more like two people trying to just beat each other into submission, kind of like what the old fights were before they had the great choreography and everything like that. And I like that. I liked the return to it. It was more emotional, I thought, and it was better sword fights with a lot less going on in the actual sword fight and a lot more going on in the subtext of the film.
I agree. Beat the hell out of each other. We don't need any Inigo Montoyas going around, We just, like all the lightsaber twirling that they had in the prequels and stuff, and it was just, this one was a little more realistic,
For sure. Anything else we want to add? We're running out of time here.
I just want to say I love it. I can't wait to see it again, and I certainly can't wait for Episode 8.
I was going to touch on the fact that what's his name? Snoke.
Snoke. S-N-O-K-E.
Oh, right. Okay. I honestly was kind of like, I think they should have done a practical effect with him. I know that at the end you kind of figure out that it's just a hologram. He's somewhere else, just like the Emperor in Empire and stuff like that. But I just think that they should have done a practical effect. I think it looked too Indiana Jones and Crystal Skull kind of thing.
You like to think that they did it for a reason. Granted, it was a giant hologram to start off. So hopefully they have some sort of things planned for him that you simply can't do with live actors or a practical effect. So that's kind of what you hope for. But I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't have a problem with it. I'm fine with it. I'm curious as to how Max von Sydow's going to work. His character is going to get worked back in, if at all, or was he killed on the planet? And if so, wow, how do you get an actor of that caliber to be in 5 minutes of your movie and then disappear?
Because, hey, this movie's going to be the biggest thing ever. Do you want to be in it?
I guess.
Yeah, I want to be in your movie, please.
I guess that's why Daniel Craig wanted to be a stormtrooper.
Yes, there's tons of those, too. If you look, Ewan McGregor has a voiceover in it somewhere.
Well, Simon Pegg's in it.
Simon Pegg is the junk dealer that Ray works for, and there's all sorts of celebrity cameos in this film. So
I didn't know all those. I knew that Daniel Craig was a stormtrooper and stuff.
If I could give a shout out to Mr. Sunday Movies on YouTube, go check out his all Easter eggs, and he goes over all those guests and things like that.
Cool.
So that's gonna.
Yeah, I'm gonna be producing my tube review of it. I wanted to give it some days so people could see it before I put it out. But yeah, I'm gonna be producing that here in the next couple days, so you guys can hear all my other rants and raves about it.
Awesome. All right, thanks, Tony. That's gonna do it for us today on the Completely Unoriginal podcast here at DakotaBroadcasting.com. For Kirk Campbell and Tony Zur, I'm Adam St. Paul. Until the next time.